What's up guys, welcome to video number 2. In this video we're going to be pulling the whole front of the motor off, getting the motor ready for the new timing belt and water pump. We're going to pull some interior bits out the car as well. You can see we've got the back seat behind us here. We're going to try and give them a scrub. We're going to see just how bad the interior of the car actually is. Pull some plastic trim out, clean it all up as much as we can, and just see how much nicer we can get this car looking for now. Obviously we're going to start replacing bits and buying new bits as we need to, but for now we're going to try and do our best to clean up everything as good as possible, just so we can go through and get that registration stuff sorted. We'll be pulling everything off the front of the motor, so we'll have a bare motor for a couple of days while we're waiting for some parts to come. But to start with, we've got to pull all the old stuff off, so let's get into it. Alright, so before we jump into the car stuff guys, I've got a big list on the board here of things that we need to order, or we've already ordered or we've got on the way, some things we can't find. So I'm going to go through the list real quick and we'll just keep ourselves a tally of what we need and where we're at. So obviously with the motor, I have no knowledge of what's been done to the motor or anything like that. So as a general rule, if I can do a timing belt and water pump, it's going to make me feel a lot better about that. You can do genuine Nissan, they're about $60 on eBay or straight from Nissan. The water pumps are a bit tricky. There's 3 different water pumps. So back when I was doing up RB25s, like R33 RB25s, RB30s, RB20s, there's one pump from an RB30 that fits on all of those motors and it's dirt cheap. Unfortunately, which I didn't know before, the R34 Neo has a different 10mm slot in there. So it took a little bit of mucking around to figure out exactly which pump we needed. I was able to get my part number off of Maya, which is one of the guys in the comments in the last video pointed out that it's a great place to get all your genuine Nissan stuff real cheap from overseas if you're not in a rush. So the cheapest place I could find to get the aftermarket Gates Blue Racing timing belt, which is meant to be a little bit better, but it's all the same. So Just Strap's website had a bunch of stuff on there, including something pretty pricey later down the list that I'll show you as well, which was really hard to find. So we ended up ordering the Gates timing belt kit to suit the 34, so that's on its way here. It should be here soon. Spark plugs, they're crossed off there, but we've got some spark plugs. BCPR6ES, I believe it is. They're pre-gap down to about 8mm. We've got split fire coil packs in the car, which you'll see soon as well. We didn't know we had them in there, so that's awesome. Ignition lock set. We have located a couple of wreckers in Victoria. They have a ton of R34 stuff. So two really nice guys. They do ship international as well if you need any parts. I'll chuck their links down below because they've been really good to deal with. We've got a couple of, we've got 2 different people that we've been dealing with, and we've got a collection of parts off both of them, which has been great. So ignition lock set, that was $300. You can buy a brand new genuine Nissan ignition barrel and 2 keys, but you don't get any of the door locks. You'd have to go to a locksmith to get them all matched up to your key, and that's just an extra cost. So I did manage to get a full second-hand lock set with all both front doors and the boot and the ignition barrel and the key as well. So that was $300. We'll write that on there before we forget. This was $300 as well for the water pumps. Ooh. We did find a driver's door. Now the driver's door was hard. You can see in previous footage that when we were doing a walk around the car that the driver's door, they've chucked a screwdriver through the outer latch and the metal part of the door, and the bottom corner is dented as well. So as far as getting that fixed, it's probably going to be about the same as buying a second-hand door and getting it painted anyway. So either or, I'd rather have a door that hasn't been repaired and just painted over the top and is in good condition. So we've managed to track one of them down. That was $200. $200 from a guy in Victoria, plus $50 freight. So we'll add that in. So that's outer latch and the whole complete door. That's on its way to us. Bought the oil and filter. The oil is still on its way here. We've got a filter here. That was $70. Radiator hoses, we went from Just Strap as well. They've got some silicon Cooling Pro ones or some aftermarket brand. New hoses, genuine hoses are a little bit more expensive than that, so I went the silicon route. They were $49. Radiators, something we're still looking at. I was going to go an aftermarket thicker alloy radiator, just one of the eBay ones, because I have used them in other previous drift cars and other street cars before with no problems. The only issue that I've ever run into is they're usually about 50mm thick, so you sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes you run into problems fitting your standard fan and radiator shroud back in on top of that radiator, and it doesn't always fit in there. So I'm just trying to do a little bit more research before we order the radiator. So this one's still going. Brake fluid we haven't done yet. We'll go through, once we've got the car back together and on the ground, we'll go through and bleed all the brakes with Ollie, fresh fluid. Tires and wheels, we did find some wheels. If you guys have seen my short or my TikTok, we did find some VX SS's here in South Australia too, which is crazy. They were the perfect offset. The only thing is that they were O-disc. VX SS's are notorious for not having much caliper clearance as it is, but in an O-disc, they were not going to fit on the front. I would have to run a spacer, and the offset that the wheels were already, they had a little bit of poke. So I would be putting a spacer on and pushing that wheel out even further. So I'm still up in the air about those wheels. I really want them. They look awesome. They're perfect for a four-door, especially a slam four-door with big fitments. So we're working on the rims. We'll get back to that a little bit later. We're going to need tires for our rego check. So unfortunately, we're going to need to buy, whether we find some secondhand tires or buy some new ones. I think new tires are cheap enough these days. They're about $100 each. So I'll probably buy 4 new tires, and I've got 4 standard rims with 4 new tires here, good to go if I ever need them in the future. Headlights was a massive one. Headlights are so expensive. If you have a 34, if you've ever had a 34, you know exactly how expensive they are. So this car has xenon headlights in it from factory. They're all glazed over, they're yellow, they look horrible. The driver's side one is fine, it has all its mounts. The passenger side one is cracked, and someone's made some metal pot riveted mounts, as you can see here. It's horrible. They're not going to pass through vehicle inspection. I really just don't want headlights like that on the car. After looking at them a little bit closer, I've also noticed that they've replaced the xenon headlights and the ballast. They're missing, and there's an aftermarket cheapy HID kit in there, which is super frustrating, but that's how it is. So what we did, we tracked down some headlights. Again, searched far and wide as much as I could, secondhand ones, new ones, trying to find them from all over the world. And it always came back to Just Jap. Again, Just Jap, genuine Nissan ones. I've got a bunch of them there, guys. I'll put their link below as well. No sponsorship or anything like that. I wish they did, but they're $1,100 each, which is just hurts me to even say. But these are the non-xenon headlights. So these are brand new, genuine Nissan non-xenon headlights, if I can say that properly. But they're going to be a straight swap in, just because this has already been modified to some horrible cheap HID kit. And there might be a couple of wires, from what I can read, to swap around to make the non-xenons work in a xenon car, but it's not going to be a big issue at all. And then I've got a driver's side that I can clean up and sell. The passenger side's throwaway, but someone might want the inners. You can buy clear outers, you can buy housings and all that sort of thing for them. So I think it's worth the money. Secondhand ones, the cheapest I could find for secondhand ones that were in good condition, $1,800. $1,800 is a great price, because people are asking like 4, 5, 6 grand. It's insane. For me, I was so close to that price of the Just Jap ones for brand new ones that are gonna look mint. There's no way to know if the secondhand ones have just been polished and then they're gonna turn yellow again straight away. So I got brand new ones, $2,200 later. It hurts to say, but I know it's gonna be worth it for the front of the look of the car. So that's the headlight. So they were $2,200. Fuel filter, we just went, I think it's a Z201 from memory. We're gonna change the fuel filter just because we're going to town on it and we're doing everything anyway. Fuel filter was $25. Top cover gaskets, we got a set off with billet half moons. The half moons are notorious for leaking and just being a pain in the bum. I mean, if you do it right, it's not a problem, but they can be a pain in the bum for leaking. And then a brand new genuine set of rocker cover gaskets. I think they were $30. Detail inside the car, we'll put a price on that a little bit later. Cut and polish, fuel cap, that was $60. Handbrake boot, we found a place on eBay that makes custom made leather handbrake boots. The cheapest I could find a handbrake boot was $60. For a secondhand one, it was peeling and crackly, and again, it's worth a little bit of extra money to go new, never have to worry about it again, and it changes the look of the car drastically. So the handbrake boot was $70 brand new. They sell them in a kit for $110 with the gear stick and the handbrake boot, and they come with the metal bracings and everything, which is really good. Again, I'll put the link below in case you guys want to have a look at that. But $110, I ended up messaging him and saying, car's automatic at the moment, I don't need the manual one, so can we do a deal for just the handbrake one? Other things that I've noticed that we need, there's a black weather strips that go between the glass and the door on every door. It's like a metal black strip, and they're notorious for cracking and looking really crap. I did price them up. Everyone that I talked to said that they're all in pretty average condition, not really perfect, which is not what I want. So they all recommended that you just pull mine off, give them a sand back and paint them yourself. and they should come up looking pretty good. So I'm going to give that a crack with the weather strip. We got a handbrake boot, we've got a spare wheel bolt, so obviously just in case we need to go through the rego safety check, we've got a spare wheel in the boot, one of the Space Saver wheels. It's like a gold colored bolt that holds the spare wheel in. We found one of them that was 10 bucks. I'm going to bolt, 10 bucks. Ignition console lid. All right, so with the console lid, everybody just wants to sell you a full console, which is completely understandable. The guy that I got the door from, I ended up buying the console, whole center console from him, and I asked him to carefully take the lid off of that. I don't need the whole console. Mine's actually in good condition except for the lid. So I've got him to wrap the console lid up and put it into the door, and he's going to ship that all together. So the console lid, as much as it hurts, again, 150 bucks, only because it was a whole console. Nobody had a console lid. A genuine console lid's about $290 or 150 bucks, and this one was in good condition. So console lid, we'll add that in here somewhere. What we'll do, plus lid, 150, 160 bucks for the lid and the bolt. And lastly is the fuel cap. I was high pressuring the car. You might have seen that in the first video. For some reason, I just had this weird feeling that I didn't have fuel cap in there. And it wasn't until the other day, I just opened up the fuel cap and it's wide open. So hopefully I didn't get any water in there into the tank when I was high pressuring it. Fingers crossed. I do need to fill the tank up with fuel just to eliminate any rust problems or any corrosion or anything like that. Fuel cap was 5 bucks. One of the guys that I bought parts from, Victoria, just threw it in for 5 bucks. So that's all good. So that's all of our parts. We've got a lot of them coming. Some of them are here, some of them are not. None of the parts on the list at the moment are things that we're doing the car up with. So we're going to be doing airbags. We'll dive into that a little bit later. The full body kit details, I'll give you that probably in the next episode after we chuck everything back together with the car. Wheels, we're going to go over wheels. We've got a couple of different options. We've got some non-Japanese wheels, and then we've got some Japanese options as well. So we'll go through all of our different options. Wheels, fitment, ride height, all that kind of stuff's really, really important to me, and I really want to get it right, especially with the GDR front on the front of this. It's going to look crazy, and you need the wheels and suspension to make it all work together. So we'll dive into that a little bit later for all the mods. This episode, as I said before, we're going to be pulling everything apart in the car, and then next episode, once all this stuff arrives, we're going to jump in and start putting everything back together and get it on the ground and driving again. All right, so first off, we've got to jack the car up. We're going to get the radiator out. We've got to drain all the coolant. I've got a big tub that we can sit underneath the car to drain all the coolant into, so we shouldn't make too much of a mess. So it's pretty straightforward. First thing we'll do is be pulling the radiator out. We just got to remove these radiator tabs, remove the hoses for the radiator, and then we can pull that radiator out. And then down here you can see that we've got the radiator fan, which should be straightforward. There's 4 little 10mm nuts to take that off. We're going to mark the crank angle sensor. So this basically sets up the timing for the car. So these holes are slotted on here. We just want to mark where they're sitting at the moment, although they look to be in a pretty bizarre place. So we'll check that out. I have a feeling they might even have the timing out on the belt already. All the more reason for us to check it. We'll just pull this front cover off, and then we should have access to the front of the motor. So underneath the motor, you can see it's got some pretty nasty oil leaks, especially around the back there. I'm not sure if you can see that on camera, but we'll get the radiator out, and we've got it all jacked up. We've got a nice big tub. Do you want to grab that tub, Ollie? Take that lid off. Slide that tub under the car, I reckon. Yep. Perfect. Alright, we've got the front off the motor now. You can definitely see she's got some oil leaks. They've actually done something dodgy with the transcooler lines as well. Instead of going through the radiator, they've just looped them around. It does come factory with the cooler, so that's not the end of the world. But alright, so next we're going to want to try and loosen the harmonic balancer bolt, which is a 27mm. Can be a little bit of a pain in the bum, so hopefully that comes off alright. I've got a breaker bar Not too bad. There's a bit of rust and you can see the color of that coolant is not ideal. So yeah, we're going to take some belts off the front. We'll keep sticking at it, and it shouldn't take us too long, I don't think. It's nice and warm today, so we'll try and get this done as quick as possible. But yeah, so we're going to take the tensioner bolt off the alternator here, take this belt off, water pump and alternator belt, and then we've got a power steering belt, and then we've got an aircon belt as well. So we're going to get all those off now. Alright, so that's pretty much everything off the front of the motor, all the belts, auxiliary belts. We're going to go ahead and take the crank angle sensor off and take this top cover off now. We also need to loosen that main bolt, which is a 27 on the crank. I'm going to put a socket on there and try and sit it up against something and just touch the starter motor. That bolt's always really hard to undo. So yeah, by sitting a spanner or a socket or a wrench on the bolt and then just touching the starter motor, I'm letting the motor do the work. So we're going to get the front of that off now. We'll keep going. Never trust other people's work. So it looks like they've done a timing belt and water pump. They've used the wrong water pump on here. And I know that this is a slotted 10mm now, but they've used the hold for the 10mm, which is in the wrong place, but they've just left the 10mm out. So you can see here, I don't know if that's showing up on camera, but there's a hole for a 10mm, which wouldn't line up on this block because it's a Neo, and this is an RB20 or R33 RB25 water pump. So they've just left that out. It doesn't look like it's leaking. It's definitely leaking a lot of oil, so I'd say all the cam seals are all leaking, and probably that front harmonic balancer or crank seal as well. You can see a lot of oil down there. All right, I think we've figured out a way to get the crank bolt undone. It's definitely not undoing by hand because it's just turning the whole motor over. We've got this set up down here. So I've got the socket on the front. I've got it resting on the frame support here. I've got the bar poking out the side of the car. So when I touch the key, obviously it's not going to start up and run because we've got no crank angle sensor plugged in, but it's just going to push that bar down and undo that bolt. We're going to go ahead and take the airbox off. We're going to take some of this intercooler piping off and that intake pipe and this crossover pipe as well, so we can get to the spark plugs, and then we can inspect the turbo and make sure that's all good as well. Unplug the airflow meter, undo the sensor there, pull that out, probably remove the canister, and then just start disconnecting pipes up on top and pull that pipe off. So now I'm going to get the motor all lined up on TDC, so top dead center is all the timing marks lined up. Should be pretty straightforward. So you can see on the harmonic balancer just there we've got some marks, and then we've got a line on the cover there as well, and then we've got some marks just on the back there, and we're going to line the cams. So there's a dot there, and we'll line that up with that mark there. Alright, we're just coming up on those marks now. You can see this one's coming up, and then you can see down on the crank as well, we're lining up. I don't know if you can see that, but the mark's just there. So we'll see if they've got it right. Looks like they're half a tooth off down the bottom, I reckon. There might be one tooth off down the bottom. We've got the harmonic balancer off. I just had two little levers behind it, just wiggling it side to side, and it's come off pretty easily. So big fat bolt, 27mm. There we go.
Ooh, that's very heavy.
Go sit that in, put the bolt back in. Nice fold on top, so keep everything organized. All right, so now we've just got to take that lower front cover off, and then we can make sure the motor's still on TDC. We can lock up the cam gears, and then we can start pulling the belt off and undoing those tensioners. So while I'm doing a few things, Ollie's just going to pull this turbo intake pipe off, and we're just going to check the condition of the front of the turbo. The turbo intake pipe off. Set that on our pile, probably set that over here with the integrated piping. Alright, our first look into the turbo. Feels good. Spins good. Turbo feels good to me. Turbo feels mint. So no play, well it's got a tiny little bit of play, but there's no oil pressure in it at the moment. Blades look all good. Hopefully I'll have a look at that on camera. I'm going to put my phone down there in a minute and take a nice close-up photo. We're going to want to do cam seals behind here because obviously there's oil everywhere. So we need to undo this. Once we've got the timing belt off, I can't undo that. So I've cracked these are loose. I need to just crack that so it's loose. And then we can go ahead and make sure this is all on TDC still because it hasn't moved. And then we can pull the timing belt and water pump off.
That wood is not good.
Very nice, is it? Yeah, look at this water pump. Let's have a look at this water pump. I reckon it was actually leaking through the gasket. You can see just in the corner. All the fins look alright, it's just, yeah, that gap in the gasket. So I obviously had a little bit of a leak there. Everywhere else looks alright though. We'll have a look at the block and see what kind of condition that's in as well. While we got this motor all apart and we're waiting on some timing belt and water pump bits to rock up, we're going to attempt the spark plugs. We've got a full set of regular spark plugs, BC PR6ES. I think they're about $8 each or something like that, not too much. We're going to chuck them in, pull the top cover off, pull the throttle body off, move all the stuff along the back out the way. We'll probably need to take this bracket off as well. Pull the coils out, pull the plugs out, check them, see what they look like. And then we can chuck the new plugs in. While we've got all that apart, we're probably going to take the rocker covers off and I'm going to send them off to be powder coated, so sandblasted and powder coated. I haven't picked a color yet, so we'll keep that a secret. Comment below if you think you know a good color that we should paint the rocker covers, and we'll work that out as we go. But we've probably got a week's wait until the timing belt and water pump at the most, I think, rock up. Ooh, got some goodie coil packs in there. Nice. Aftermarket coil packs and some more dodgy paint on the rocker covers. Get that coil pack loom out, which actually feels alright. That coil pack loom doesn't feel too brittle, which is good. Nice that we've got some aftermarket coil packs. We are going to need to clean that valley out as well, so I'll see if I've got a vacuum cleaner or something we can get in there to try and suck up some of that crud that's in there. Yep. So they are Spitfires. That's killer, man. So we'll clean them up and put them back in. They don't look like they've been missing or anything. So this is definitely Ollie's first time using a rattle gun, pretty much. So just teaching him the basics of what to do, and don't just go brrr until it's dead. It's getting the hang of it really quick, which is good. So you can pull that front one out with your hand. Have a look at it. So make sure you don't drop it. Cool, they look all normal. Plugs are all back in. We'll chuck the coil packs back in. Stoked that we've got some split fires in there, that's really cool. So we'll bolt them back in, and then I'm going to take the rocker covers off and we'll leave them off and we'll go get them painted. All right, I've got the cam covers off, so we can get them off to be prettied up a little bit. Nothing important, but something I wanted to do while we had the motor apart anyway. Cams will look all good, no excessive wear. This I'm gonna have to deal with. So the PCV valve looks like it needs a new pipe. The valve itself looks like it's still there, so that's all good. Under the intake manifold looks alright, a little bit dirty. We'll get the covers on and painted, and then we'll give everything a good clean. So while that motor's all apart and we're waiting for parts, I'm gonna get stuck on the interior. I'm gonna pull the front seats out, I'm gonna pull the back seats out, I'm gonna pull all the boot trim, which absolutely stinks. We're gonna pull all that outside the car and try and give it a bit of a wash and a clean and see how good we can get that. So I'm not sure how much you're gonna be able to see in here. It's pretty filthy, but the front seats are pretty straightforward. I think we've got 4 14mm bolts, so we've got 2 at the front and then 2 at the back. We'll just slide the seat forward. That should be fairly straightforward. We'll get stuck into that first. All the seats are out. Pretty gross in there. So I'll show you the carpet. I don't know if the camera picks it up in there because it's quite dark, but just the years and years of gunk. Macca's chips, bit of everything. And so the next bit's going to be, oh, that stinky boot. All right, we've got all the mats in there. Those mats don't look too bad. So to get all this crap out. I don't know what part of the boot actually stinks. It does look a bit damp here, like some water's got in. The seal looks alright. It's definitely got mold on there. So we'll get that sorted out as best as we can and washed out. We'll get this spare out. We'll get all the side trims out as well, just so we can eyeball everything. Boot trim all out. We can give that a good clean and a wash over the next day or so. Inside the boot looks all good, just dirty. We'll give it a good wash and a clean. We do need a pin. We need a pin for the spare tyre to hold that down, the bolts. I don't know what we're going to use. If you have anything you recommend for using for cleaning interior, comment below and let me know. I haven't had to do it before, so we normally have, well, both of our other cars have leather seats, so yeah, I haven't done cloth trim before. I was going to use a bit of clothes washing liquid, but I think that'll be a bit slimy and a bit weird, so I'll see if I can find some good stuff for that.
So here we have some Armorall upholstery cleaner, and we're going to try and clean the stains off these seats.
Alright, as Ollie said, yeah, we're going to try and use some of this stuff. It looks pretty basic to use, so you just got to spray it on, it foams up, and then you let it sit there for a minute or two, and then you give it a scrub with the brush on the top of the can there, and hopefully that brings some of those stains to the top. I'm not sure how much we're going to be able to clean the seats up, but hopefully we can get some of these stains out and just make them look a bit more uniform and neat. Let's see how we go. This one's pretty worn out. Probably see if we can try and get a replacement, or we'll probably end up putting bucket seats in there down the track anyway. See if we can find some ADR approved bucket seats for the front. I got another brush from Bunnings. I don't know if that's going to work any better. We'll give it a crack. Wow, there's some like gross stuff in the headrest up here. Have a look at this. What is that? It's like wax or grease or something. It's pretty gross. I'm going to use this same brush, which is the original intent for it, to scrub inside the car, do the carpets in the car as well. Hopefully I've got enough spray left to do the carpets. Not expecting it to be crazy good, but a little bit better would help. We can always go over it again if we need to later. I'm glad I bought 2 cans of that though, so 2 cans did. These are pretty bad, but it did what the full set just. There's a little bit left for the carpet. So this is the state of my house at the moment. I'm not sure what the neighbors are gonna think. So inside the car, there is some disgusting stuff inside this car. I don't know what on earth it is. I don't know if they're a smoker or what the go is, but have a look at this. I don't even want to touch that. I almost think it might be better to get the high pressure spray in here, to be honest, but we'll keep scrubbing and see how good we can get it. Look how gross that is. That's 100 times better in there. That's heaps better already. So I'm gonna chuck everything back in and we'll call that quits for the day, I reckon. It's disgusting. Look at these seat belts. I'm pretty sure that's alive, whatever that is. I'm gonna give the driver's seat and the passenger seat one more wash over with the foam. And we'll go from there, I reckon. Other than that, guys, I appreciate you sticking around for this video. Feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for everybody. Thank you so much for everybody that's been watching the video so far. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to us. All the links that you need are down below. If you have any questions, guys, please feel free to comment. I'll reply to every single one. Me and Ollie always read the comments. We'll be back in the next video with all of our parts. We're going to have headlights, timing belts, water pumps, plugs. We're going to clean the airflow meter, fuel filter, replace that one. We're going to inspect the fuel pump in the tank here as well, make sure that's all good. We're going to put all the interior trim back in the car. We should have a door, fingers crossed, so we should be able to swap over all the bits from the inside of that door, the driver's door, into the new door with the new latch lock set. We've got so many parts coming, guys, so feel free to click that subscribe button and join us for episode 3. But thank you for watching episode 2. Really appreciate it, guys. See you next one.